All right, this is Adam and Tyler back again with a talk. Yeah, hey, yo. And we're going to be starting this off. It's the first in a series that we're going to be doing called First Impressions. As you can tell, it'll be, by the name, it'll be first impressions on films that we watch, more specifically in the theaters. Recently, the one that we're going to get started with the series off is the Avengers: Infinity War. Huge blockbuster film, obviously, so a lot of opinions out there about it, but we're going to dive in. Warning, spoilers, just to be fair to anyone who hasn't seen it.
We're going to talk about the whole movie.
The whole damn movie. So, please, spoiler alert now, if you have not seen it. If you have, look forward to hearing your opinions or first impressions of the film. And note that as we talk about these, we're not exactly scripting this. And when I say not exactly, we're not. The idea is to get a completely unfiltered and realistic look at what we thought of the film, what was good, what was bad, and perhaps these opinions will change over time. But it's always exciting to understand what the first look is of that. So let's get started. So Adam and I had the opportunity to watch this yesterday, separately, I might add, which I think is interesting because when you watch a film without being with that person, then I think that experience might shape how you interpreted it. So I'm looking forward to talking about this. As a whole, I would say for me, I liked it. I thought it was enjoyable. The plot moved quickly, albeit in my opinion maybe a little fast. There was never a dull moment.
Yeah, a lot of stuff was happening. It just, there weren't a lot of lulls. There maybe were a couple.
Yeah.
Like getting the team together and everything. But there was always, whenever there was a scene change, it seemed like something was happening.
Yeah, I mean, I think to that point, one of the things what stands out to me the most is that I was in the theater. I saw it with my brother, actually, who's, fairly into movies, but he kind of just joins me along for the ride every now and then. But anyway, so we were in the theater and we're watching the scene where Vision and, God, I always forget the Scarlet Witches.
Wanda.
Are in Scotland, and they're chatting. My brother gets up to go to the restroom, and then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, this, they get attacked. Yeah. And it's just super high octane real quick. Yeah. And the first thing I thought in that moment, I remember thinking is, wow, you can't even step out for a restroom break without missing anything. And, that's not necessarily a judgment of the overall film itself, but it was just something that I noticed, and I was like, I feel like that wasn't the case with, take for example, Age of Ultron. Like, I feel like there were moments there where, and it's not fresh in memory, so I could be wrong, but there were moments there where you could have ducked out, and you probably wouldn't have missed too much. I don't know.
You could probably do that in the beginning a bit, when they're doing that party thing, before Ultron comes stumbling in.
Yeah.
Maybe. I mean, that's what I think of when you say something like that.
It's just Infinity, and then Infinity War in that scene too. When it drops Captain, and it's a whole moment, but it comes out of nowhere. So if you happen to be gone for a few minutes,
right,
really easy to miss that. And since there's so many alternating storylines in it, if you miss that scene, I don't think we end up seeing Captain America for at least another 15 to 20 minutes. So if you were to crop back up and you were to miss it, then you might have lost part of that. That's not necessarily, to be fair, I don't feel like that's something that I would judge the whole film on, but it's a fast-moving film.
Yeah.
So you definitely get caught up in the special effects and the CGI and in the story of this villain too, who is cut out to be who he was made to be over the course of the last 4 or 5 years. How long have they been building this story out?
Since Avengers in 2012.
Oh my God. So 2012 or 6 years.
6 years, yeah.
Jesus. 6 years. This is about 6 years ago. Yeah. So that's pretty crazy. I mean, I don't know. That to me is just that was a defining piece of the film as a whole, that we had this villain who actually was what he was supposed to be, and he was played out really well. I mean, what, Josh Brolin?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, he did a good job.
Yeah, definitely, and he was panned out to be fierce and villainous and with the sole intention of taking over the universe, and you really saw that come to play, which I thought was good. I think we always knew that there would be sort of like a non-fairy tale ending to this one, and to be honest,
because originally it was Infinity War Part 1 and 2, but then they got rid of the Infinity War subtitle for the next part, and now the film is still untitled as of right now.
For the Part 2 one, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's to be honest, I didn't even know that there was a second Infinity War. Like it was a two-parter until recently when you told me about that. So I was pretty out of the loop there. But it's yeah, and I think I remember. I can't remember who I told this to, but I was talking about this with someone. It might have been my brother about it, and we talked about the concept of the end of the film. Let's talk about the end of the film.
Okay.
So. The end of the movie, and again, spoiler alert here.
Yeah.
Last chance. 1.
Basically.
2. 3. Okay, here we go.
Basically, half the characters die.
Die with huge quotes, italics. Yeah.
They disintegrate from existence, more or less.
Yeah. Thanos. Yeah. He fulfills his plan. He gets all the Infinity Stones. And he essentially...
Well, what is his plan? Is to wipe out half of all life in the universe to balance it. Mm-hmm. We should have that. Because it's not just necessarily to stop the Avengers.
Yeah, which...
They get in the way.
Historically was the kind of reason behind all the villains. But yeah, it's interesting. Maybe he had kind of a similar agenda as Ultron.
Yeah, I was actually I didn't think about that, but yeah, I read some people saying that.
I'm just thinking of that just now, actually. But interesting. I helped connect those points. But he kind of, and you see glimpses of that too when you look into the past with him and Gamora and wiping out her planet and all that. Yeah. But yeah, so bottom line about the end of the story, he starts to fade away half of the universe in a cleansing effect, if you will, and. So what you see some of the characters that we've grown to love and appreciate from some of the films kind of disintegrate or fade away or die, so to speak. So this includes Peter Parker. This includes T'Challa.
Jeez, yeah.
Hard to believe that was the case. I wonder how long they'd been planning that, because especially with the rightful success of Black Panther, it made me wonder how they decided to do that. But and I'll explain kind of where my thinking is with that in a bit, just off the cuff here. But so you see that, and then Star-Lord, I think, was also part of that as well.
For all the Guardians of the Galaxy except for Rocket.
Oh, right.
I believe. Which is an interesting choice to leave behind.
Well, what's even more interesting about that is you get another sad moment where Rocket loses Groot.
Again,
Jesus, man, like.
Well, and he loses the whole team though too.
But why put us through that? It's I'm going to be honest here. As a man, at the end, there's a man.
Yeah.
As a man, I did cry at the end of the first Guardians of the Galaxy.
Oh, yeah. I don't remember.
Well, I don't know if you've watched it yet, but...
No, I have seen it. I've seen Guardians of the Galaxy.
And this is not... I'm not going to call spoiler alert, because there's a certain period of time that passes where spoilers it can't be a spoiler.
Pretty much.
So
it's been 4 years.
It's been long enough for Guardians of the Galaxy. But yeah, at the end when he loses Groot, that is an emotional... Oh, man. Yeah. It was sad for me. I definitely shed a few tears from the old eye wells, if you will. So, that was a sad moment. So seeing that again, it's like, Marvel, why are you doing that to me? Anyway, so the point is we lose a bunch of characters.
You lose,
and but I feel like, again, back to the first impressions as we're dialoguing here, I feel like that's kind of spoiled from the commercial business side of it.
Yeah.
I don't know. What do you think?
A little bit, because it's like people who are savvy, I actually think the general public is probably savvy enough to know that these characters are coming back in the next movie. I I would hope, because it's like there's no way that Black Panther is dead for good when he just had this huge movie, and I believe they just announced the sequel to that movie is coming somewhere down the line.
Yeah.
Same with Spider-Man, who they finally worked out a deal with Sony to get him into the Marvel Studios movies as part of that shared Avengers universe. And we know that there's a sequel to Homecoming coming out next year. They're going to start filming that like in a couple months or something. And we know, well, some people probably don't know this, but Homecoming, the sequel to Homecoming, is supposed to be the first, I think, post, Infinity War, last Avengers movie. Like that's kind of supposed to, like, the first movie after the events of that story end. This current story, the Infinity War story.
Yeah. Yeah.
And they get rid of Bucky is gone.
Oh right. Scarlet Witch fades away too, right?
Did she?
Wanda. Fuck, I always forget her name. Anyway.
And Falcon went too. I think
wasn't Falcon looking for someone and
he was looking. I think he faded away. He was looking for. I remember it was actually kind of funny because he's looking for somebody and they fade away. Right, they're like right in front of him. He's like, where are you? And he's like a few steps away, and they just disintegrate. And he's like, where are you? So it's kind of funny and unintentionally, and a little there's irony there.
Yeah.
And then I think he fades away too, right?
Yeah.
There was so much happening that it's like,
and that was difficult too to follow. Just you've got all these characters that have these different arcs, and when I say difficult to follow, the plot was not challenging to follow.
It's fairly simple,
but they do it. I have to give props to the directors and just general who wrote the script for it, because the story itself flows well enough to where you're not lost as far as what the objective is. That's very clear, and all the stories, I think, in comparison to one another, I think stack up. Although, and I'll say this once, and hopefully it'll ring true for you as well, is that I found Doctor Strange to be the most compelling part of the entire movie.
He was definitely, I think, one of the best characters.
And cheers to my man Benedict. But he had a large presence in this movie comparatively to some of the other heroes. I mean, Thor, you could argue, had a pretty large presence.
Yeah, well, him and Thor are basically
kind of the leads in it, and
they
took sort of a backseat role a bit.
A little bit, yeah.
I mean, his persona certainly is that of being a major character, but
we didn't really get a lot of Cap, really.
Speaking of which, rest in peace Hawkeye and rest in peace Ant-Man. But
they're gonna be in part 2.
Yeah.
The Ant-Man movie is coming out in a couple months, and I don't know when that's supposed to take place. It might actually be taking place during the events of Infinity War.
Okay. So we get kind of a current things as they interesting. That'll be interesting to see how.
The timeline. I think. Well, I don't really know, but I think it might be taking place like right before the wipeout happens or something.
Oh, okay.
Possibly. People have been, thinking about that.
Sure. That'll be interesting to see how that pans out then. Yeah, I mean, honestly, I don't really care too much about Hawkeye. Yeah, I know. Maybe an unpopular opinion, but
he's had a couple good moments. Yeah. Like in Civil War, I think he had some good moments.
Yeah, absolutely. As far as just the sequences, though, speaking of good moments, and the reason I call Doctor Strange out as being really great in the movie is one, his presence as far as like moving the plot along, as well as just his action sequences are fantastic. Yeah. I really liked the sequence with him and Iron Man and Peter and who else was there? They had a couple of the Guardians.
Star-Lord was there.
Yeah, Star-Lord was there. Who's
Drax? Actually, it was all
Drax.
It was pretty much all the Guardians except for Rocket, because he was with
and Groot was with.
Yeah, Rocket and Groot were with Thor, so it was.
Yeah, when they're fighting Thanos on that deserty type planet.
Yeah, Titan.
and they might have they were trying to take him down. That was a really good sequence.
Yeah,
I especially liked. This is just child in me / being dazzled by special effects. when Strange is throwing down the portals that Peter's hopping through and tying him up and kicking it. That was just really fun to watch and entertaining. I really appreciated that from just a pure entertainment enjoyment perspective. That was a really good sequence. Although, related to that scene, I thought it was so gimmicky that, you know, you had Star-Lord, who's the one who basically fucks everything up for them.
Yep.
It just felt super... It felt super juvenile and like kind of like a...
That's kind of his character, though, isn't it?
Yeah, I guess.
Because I was seeing some comments about that it's not necessarily out of character. He's a very like emotionally driven character.
Right. I guess you kind of see that in the second Guardians of the Galaxy with the whole...
With his dad and everything.
Who's that?
His dad.
Who's his dad? Kurt Russell?
Yeah, Kurt Russell. Ego.
Yeah, you see that really at play then. So, I guess to be fair, that actually sounds okay. But
yeah, it does. It's unfortunate, though.
Yeah. I wish we got more, and maybe this is just because I'm still fresh from the Black Panther train, but...
Right.
I wish we got more T'Challa. I thought the sequence on Wakanda was really great. All the scenes there were really fantastic. You got to see the full cast.
Yeah, when they were in Wakanda, I remember my theater. Everyone started clapping right when they. It's like, oh, where are we gonna go? And Cap's like, I know a place or whatever, and then
they show Wakanda.
Yeah, and everyone started clapping. Everyone was clapping when Cap was introduced too.
Yeah, because it was in typical Marvel superhero fashion, right?
Yeah, because
he was this hero that we can't see because they use shadows so effectively there.
Because it was just this dark figure,
Yeah, and they did a great job of introducing him, and he came at right at the exact clutch moment.
Yeah, the nick of time.
Yeah, well, saved by the bell, but
right.
Yeah, that was great. So there were a lot of really good. I think we're calling out a lot of really good scenes that occurred throughout the movie, and the Red Skull introduction was funny.
I wasn't,
and I did not expect that.
Yeah,
I actually kind of exclaimed when I was in the theater.
Same.
When that came.
Because I was like, oh man, they brought him back because we haven't seen him. We don't know. He just he disappears after first Avenger and.
Can we confirm that was Hugo Weaving?
It was not.
It was not. Okay.
It was actually the guy from Walking Dead, Ross Marquand. He plays the gay character Aaron.
God, I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if you he was the guy who it was when they were kind of on the lam and Rick was really grizzly and stuff, and then this one guy comes out and he's like, oh, I'm from a settlement and I want to bring you. I've been watching you guys and we want to bring you in.
Yikes. I
do
not know.
Yeah, he's like a main-ish character now.
Yeah, I'm kind of.
But he's a good impressionist.
Okay.
So I guess that's how they got him because I thought it was Hugo Weaving.
Because he was in the first Captain America.
Yeah.
Right?
But I've heard that Hugo Weaving did not really like that experience, and he wouldn't do another Marvel movie, so I was kind of like, oh man, did they get him back? But they did not.
In retrospect, it's kind of a weird casting decision to have him in there, just knowing what he's been in.
Sure.
I mean, but I guess he was in Lord of the Rings and
a
lot of epic movies and dramas, I believe. I'm probably talking out of my ass. I don't know. I don't know his filmography, music. Anyway, so as a standalone film, I think Infinity War stacks up. I will be interested to see how it goes into the second film,
right.
But we already kind of know what's going to happen.
Yeah.
All these characters, to your point earlier, these characters are not going to die. There's too much money to be made. There's too. I know that sounds super like I'm jumping the gun a little bit,
right.
But people want to see more Spider-Man. We want to see more Black Panther. We want to see more. I mean, to a degree, I would say people want to see more Thor after Ragnarok.
Probably, yeah. Thor survived.
So, right.
Yeah.
But
which the core Avengers from the original movie, the original Avengers in 2012, I think all of them survived.
Yeah. So we'll see how it pans out. And I'm excited. I have not grown weary of Marvel movies yet, and I know that that's something that you and I have an occasional conversation kind of blithered about, that there's this fatigue that comes with all these Marvel movies. that because we're so saturated with them, and we've got a movie every year, maybe even multiple. Plus, we have TV series that are thrown in the mix.
It is multiple. I think they at least for the past couple years. I think it's been like at least 2 a year.
That's a lot. I mean, if you think about it.
And superhero movies used to just, like Spider-Man, the Raimi ones, that was like every 2 or 3 years. Right.
Well, look at, for example...
And then there were some other things, but then all these things weren't connected like the Marvel Studios stuff is.
Yeah. Well, look at, for example, if you watch Tarantino movie, or if you watch a Paul Thomas Anderson flick, like... Paul Thomas Anderson, Phantom Thread came out, but before that, Inherent Vice was, 3 years prior to that?
Probably.
So, I mean, granted, that's an apples to oranges thing, I feel, but the frequency that we're set up with these Marvel movies is more than anything else that we would watch.
Yeah. And
there's no definite end date. Like, for example, when you watched Lord of the Rings, or even the Harry Potter series, you knew that there was sort of an end date. And, you could argue, now Lord of the Rings, Amazon, the whole TV series thing. We'll talk about that later, perhaps. But anyway, we're digressing a bit here, but that's the fun of this whole thing. So, is there anything else in Avengers: Infinity War that stood out to you?
I don't know. I think the characters. I would say the characters were all handled pretty well. I mean, they have so many that I'd say it was admirable that they pretty much pulled it off.
How about comedy? Too much? Too little?
That's kind of... I don't know, because I think there were things in the right moment, but then it just seemed like there were a lot of... To me, it seemed like there was maybe a lot, but maybe it was actually just right. I'm not really sure, actually. Because I remember there were a lot of laughs in the audience from certain points.
There were moments. I mean, take for example, like if you've seen Thor Ragnarok, right? Thor Ragnarok was there's just a comedic jib or jab that occurs every single moment.
Right. Yeah, that wasn't quite the case in Infinity War because there was room to breathe, but it did seem like because I think the Guardians of the Galaxy, I feel like most of the time that they were on screen, there was some kind of, joke there.
Right, yeah. But the comedy, I feel like, in this one, and I'm super hypercritical of comedy in these movies, that it's a little too much. I didn't feel like it was excessive here. I thought it was appropriate, and it elicited a few laughs from me, which I can certainly appreciate. I'm not on some film soapbox high horse over here, but... I felt like it was timed okay, and the funniest scene for me was so simple, but it's when Peter meets Doctor Strange for the first time, and he asks for his name, and Doctor Strange says, "I'm Dr. Stephen Strange," and Peter's like, "Oh, we're using our fake names," and I thought, I don't know why, that was great.
Yeah,
that just showed Peter's sort of teenage youthfulness and represented it in not a super amateur light. It was I thought that was it.
Yeah, I think I actually I remember that was in the trailer, and the delivery I thought was a little off in the trailer, and I think they used a different take in the movie because it sounded a little better to me in the movie.
Oh, was that in the trailer?
Yeah, it was. It was It was in one of the trailers.
Jesus, I'm pathetic for quoting trailer stuff.
No, it's fine because it was actually in the movie. The problem is when there's stuff in the trailer that's not in the movie, and
yeah, then everything's all screwed up.
Yeah.
Overall, though, if I were to rate the movie, first impressions, we'll close it off with a number. Tyler's rating, 8 out of 10. 7.5.
My rating would probably... I'm not really sure what I would give it, but I'd probably give
us a number.
I'd probably give it close to maybe an 8 or 8.5, possibly. Yeah, out of 10, maybe somewhere probably between an 8 and a 9, maybe 9 for being generous and just they didn't screw it up,
Yeah. Now I feel critical.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. Somewhere, if I had to be, maybe I really don't know. Like maybe 8, 9, 8.5. I don't know, something like that.
There you have it, from the man himself. So, great film. I'm glad we had the opportunity to talk about it as well. And if you have other films that you watched, maybe we've watched them, maybe we haven't. We'd like to hear them. So let us know. If there's a movie that you've seen that you want to hear a first impressions discussion about, comment, and we'll talk. Otherwise, thanks for joining us for this discussion. We'll talk to you again soon.